I want to say welcome to you all. I am so excited to do this today because get me talking about the voice. You're not going to stop me talking about the voice basically because I think it's so important. And but when it comes to the voice, I know that people have so much block and idea and story around the voice. And even though my background is as a singer, that where you sing or where you speak from, the powerhouse, the center of that is completely the same. And it's very simple, but of course it's not easy. And when I was thinking about what I was going to do and how I was going to put this together, I'm like, you need to be able to come away with something that's totally actionable, that you can think, I came up with, I felt that I learned something today and I can actually implement those things in my life. So it's not that you have to keep running back and go into a bigger experience. And voice work and developing your voice, you can spend your entire life doing that, but it all starts from the same core things. And even once you've got those core things down, then as you make the decision to go in deeper and kind of tweak things, then that's up for you. But you need to start with just three really core things as well. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm just going to give you a little introduction to myself. My name is Carol May Whittick, and my background is as a singer, songwriter, and musician. So I'm just sharing some little pictures of me. So this picture on the left-hand side was actually me when I was 4 years old, just about standing up on this little keyboard. It was like, actually it was like an air organ where you have to like pedal it and put bellows through it and everything like that. And so I didn't, I didn't even weigh enough for that to happen, but there was just something there in that little 4-year-old girl's heart that knew that this was the life. So you can see later on I upgraded to a Roland, but initially I started there as well, so yeah, over the course of the years I've moved from singing to speaking and back again. It's all the same, but all of these things, I had to develop my voice, even though I had this massive desire to be a singer. And I spent many years, I mean, I could have filled this page with like hundreds of pictures of me doing gigs all over Europe and all over London as well, in big, small places. That for me, it was, I had to develop my voice. I had to get out of my own way when it came to my own voice. And the first thing that I needed to do was I changed my accent. So unless you're from the UK, this might not make any difference, but where I grew up in was the Midlands, which is not London, which is kind of where I live now. So it had a very regional accent. So the first thing that I found out how I could do was to work out how to change my voice, change my accent. And when I realized that I could change my accent, then I realized how malleable the voice was. So I'll give you a little a little taste of it as well. So I used to speak like this. So I came from a place called Wolverhampton. And this was back in the day where it wasn't really done to have a regional accent, and I wanted to be, out there in the world. So I'm like, there is no way that this this accent's going to take me anywhere. So I worked really hard to change my accent. But even when I changed my accent, I was still very timid and very shy. So where my voice is now, where you hear it placed, was not where it was. So it was actually quite placed up here. So I don't know if you can feel the difference of where it is now. And even when I do that and I bring it up to where it is before, I actually start to feel very panicky because I can't feel my voice. And it's kind of in here and it's not really connected to anything. And because it's kind of in this space where I'm a little bit scared and I'm speaking and I want to be nice and pleasing, I can feel almost like there's space for something else to come in. And I spent years going to different vocal teachers, and the one that really got it for me was one when I learnt a speech. I've got to bring it down, otherwise I'll be stressed out all the way through. Called speech level singing. And what drew me to this, because initially I had a voice teacher who was teaching me bel canto singing, which is very operatic and very light and very in your head, and it was all here. And he taught a lot of people who were on the West End stage, like Elaine Page. I don't know if she was like internationally famous, but she did Cats on the stage, the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. So she was, a big thing, especially a couple of years, like 20 years ago. So he taught her, but there was still not a connection with my voice. And then when I found out about speech level singing, two things drew me to it. When I found out where it came from and who the roster of people were, it was basically my record collection. So it came from a guy called Seth Riggs, who basically taught all my favorites: Michael Jackson, Al Jarreau, Anita Baker, to name a few. There's like a list of everyone there, Stevie Wonder. And you can even go and like find on YouTube as he's taking Michael Jackson through these scales. So I know this is not about singing, but like I said, it's all about the same place, because what this taught me was how to get my voice into my body and speak from where I sing from. And the first few lessons that I had with my tutor, the first couple of months actually, was she didn't even allow me to sing. She was just getting me to find my voice by speaking. And she would just, there were two songs that she would allow me to sing. One was These Boots Were Made for Walking by Nancy Sinatra, and Love Me and Leave Me by Nina Simone. But she wanted me to like speak from this place so that I could actually start to feel the resonance of my own voice. And that's what brought it into my body from out of here, which is where it was before, back down into my body so I could actually feel it. So when I understood that, and when I realized that once I got it in my body and I could actually start to feel and heal myself, then that really changed how I was able to go out and be more confident. And I went in and out of it because it's a lifelong thing and there's so many different things involved in it. But it really changed initially what my how my expression was as well. So these are just some pictures of me doing the rounds on the scene. And then about 6 years ago, 2017, I launched the first of my podcasts as well. So Higher Energetic Resonance, Conversations and Inspirations. And between the two platforms now, I have done over 230 episodes, which is wild when you count it. But, like if you keep going, you get there eventually as well. So I now also use my voice for speaking. I've done audio books as well. I do other little bits and pieces for people. But it's interesting now that when people say to me, "Oh, I really love your voice," that it took me so long to get to this place. It took me so long to understand what it is to have your voice. And I appreciate and I understand where people come from, where they have a lot of tension and stress and worry around their voice. And then also I work as a creativity and spiritual life coach. And it may seem that the two are like, why would you do creativity and spirituality? Creativity, as far as I'm concerned, is spirituality, because when you're being creative, you're tapping into something that's, where's this coming from? It's like clearly not here. And that was something, the connection that I made when I was young, when I started to write poems, when I started to write songs. It was like, where is all this coming from? And realizing that no one was feeding me this, because after I realized that I wasn't going to the shop and buying the music like I did for my piano lessons, I was finding something coming from within. So that's why I'm so passionate about sharing creativity, sharing spirituality with people, because they're so melded together. And I think creativity, allowing everybody to find that expression, that creativity, their voice in the world, is what's going to change the world. Because I've got big dreams for myself, got big dreams for all of us here. All right. So that's about me as well. And my struggles were me coming out of that lightheadedness, coming out of that fear around my voice, being too afraid to speak sometimes as well, because even though I was doing the music, I was facing a lot of resistance from people who just didn't want me to do that. They wanted me to get a proper job and do real stuff. And I just didn't want to do that. That was not my calling, so I still had to really I really had to find myself and find my own confidence to be able to stand up and go, this is what I need to do, because if I don't do this, I'm not happy. I'm literally not happy if I'm not doing creative things. And I can spend hours creating, coming up with a million ideas and not feel tired. But if I have to do 5 minutes of something that I'm not into, it's painful for me. It really, really hurts. So this is why I know that I can help, because I've pulled myself through these things. So the reason also why I think it's so important to express yourself, this is a quote that, I don't know if you've heard of this lady called Bronnie Ware, and she was a nurse and she used to work in an old people's home, and she always wanted to ask people as they were transitioning, you know, what were the regrets, what didn't work out for you in your life. And it was interesting that number 3 was, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. And what she said, like, many people suppress their feelings in order to keep the peace with others, but as a result they settled for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. And then on top of that, they developed illnesses relating to the bitterness and the resentment that they carried in as a result as well. And we know if we don't let things out, they embed themselves, they become really deep seated within us, and it has to go out somewhere. And ultimately, you're the one that's going to pay the price of holding back and trying to keep the peace with other people. A couple of other quotes as well. When people don't express themselves, they die one piece at a time. That's from Laurie House Anderson, her book Speak. And putting a voice to your soul helps you let go of the negative energy of fear and regret. And when it comes to fear, and know people have a lot of things about, I'm too scared, I don't want to speak. The only way that you get rid of fear is by doing something. You just go into it and you realize that it's not so bad after all. And you'll still always have that fear feeling, but fear is useful. You can turn it around. You can, fear and excitement have a very similar energy to them. They feel very similar in the body, and you can actually turn that around. And I will kind of go through an exercise with you with that so that we can work on that as well. So before I go any deeper, I just want to find out from anyone, if you want to share with me, you know, what do you feel around your voice? Like, you can come on, or you can drop it in the chat if I can find a chat box. And just let me know what comes up with you when you're thinking about your voice. Anyone open to share with me?
Hi, well, my voice is the one of the things I really want to work on is my voice is dependent upon how I'm feeling in the moment. So as you expressed earlier about being up here and in like kind of more of your headspace and your voice being up there, that when I'm more nervous and feeling insecure, even my singing voice, then no matter how much training or whatever, it still goes up to that area as well. And so um, I liked what you were saying about having it be located in your body and speaking from there. So I'm 44 now, but I'm still just now getting used to being comfortable and expressing my voice, like even, and I'm not, I'm working on it. And so, yeah, I want to be more steady. So that's one of the things I'm excited to learn and to continue to grow.
Amazing, amazing. Anybody else? Thanks, Chelsea, for sharing. Anybody else want to share anything?
Oh, hi.
Mhm.
For me, it's I've always had like a soft voice. And sometimes people, like when I get really nervous and anxious, then the volume, like it just drops and then people can't hear me and it's like a whisper. So I'd like to work on just keeping the tone and so that people can hear me, because I do a lot of speaking as well. And um so I'm here today to grow and learn.
Yeah,
Thank you.
perfect. Thank you. And Andres, I can feel when it comes from deeper in my body, and I'm aware of it when it goes higher into people pleasing. Yeah, yeah, totally. Because that was my voice. You know, when people say, "Oh my God, you're so sweet," I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I am." But I've got, and that's not to say I don't have a sweetness about me, but sometimes, and especially going back to that quote about resentment, is when I didn't speak up for myself and then people spoke for me, and I would just sit there literally grinding my teeth, like saying in my head, like, that's just not what I'm thinking, but then not saying anything. So it's like, I'm not telling them, they're making it up, I'm getting pissed off, it's like this endless loop of not getting it out there. So the thing is to really to be able to bring it to the place that you feel it. And also, like I said before, when I'm speaking from this place, I feel totally safe, as opposed to when I even try and demonstrate it, it literally lifts away from me, and I'm like, oh, I can feel like there's almost like a space for like something to enter, and I don't feel grounded, and it's just me in the room. So that's how it
Yeah.
goes. Did you want to add to that?
Well, and I can feel it as well, right? Like when your voice goes deeper into your body, my body relaxes and feels the sense of safety, right? Like there's a sort of resonance that I'm picking up on as well, versus when your voice goes higher and into that sort of anxiety, my body goes as well with you too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's also about resonance, like my thing is always about higher energetic resonance, is when I used to go and do open mics and things like that, like when we were watching each other, if ever somebody went on stage and they were just like, oh, I'm sorry, everyone's sitting there like this, just like, oh my god, this is a lot, it's like, because you're feeling into it. So the more that you can like pull yourself down and feel that, and we'll do that as well, and you can really experience what your voice feels like in your body, then you're like, boom boom boom, you can't help but do it. But also you do it from a point of just self-nurturing, you want to feel that yumminess and that warmth from yourself, and you realize how powerful your voice is. And then when people feed back to you that they're getting something from your voice, you know that you're in the right space also as well. Petra as well, getting comments on accent also when I'm nervous or expensive, I speak too fast. Yeah, we have the tendency to try and get it out because we just don't think that anyone wants to listen to us, so just like trying to say it as quickly as possible, and then nobody understands. Do you know what I mean? So we're all about that. And the thing is, I love accents. I just, oh gosh, I'll just, even though I got rid of my Wolverhampton one, but nobody wants to hear anybody speak like that though, do they? That's not as sexy as having like a European accent. It's a completely different thing. Okay, so let's get back into what we're going to do. So the first thing is, as I promised you, we've got 3 steps to vocal confidence, and I wanted to make it nice and easy. So the first one is authenticity, breath, and cadence as well. So authenticity, what I mean about authenticity is about you remembering who you are, and feeling confident about expressing your opinion, letting go, freeing yourself from the limiting stories and coming out of comparison, and knowing who you're here to serve. So I remember there was one time I was in a friend's car, and I really like Barbara Streisand. I don't know if anyone knows Barbara Streisand. And she was singing this song, and I was so gutted because I was enjoying the song, but I'm like, I'll never sing like that. Oh my God. Like, what is the point? And because I was comparing myself to Barbara Streisand, I decided that I had no voice. But that's one of the things that really does us down, is because we start listening to other people, and then we start comparing our voice to them, and it's like, oh, my voice doesn't sound like that. But one, your voice is going to sound different inside of you to what it sounds outside of you as well. So then there's always that getting used to what your voice sounds like from a recording, from an external device, and then also what your voice feels like. So the best thing that you can go by is what your voice feels like for you, as opposed to what it sounds like. So if you can get in the feeling, that then you know that you're in the right place. If you're trying to like kind of gauge it up against whoever the hottest singer is right now, or whoever the hottest speaker is, and you think your voice doesn't match, then you're listening out for something else. But you can also look at people and go, I like the way they do this, I like the way they do that. And there's always ways of hearing where people's voices are. And because I work with the voice so much, I can tell what people are doing to get the voice that they're doing. And I can tell also whether they're going to have much of a voice going forward, continuing to do that or not, you know, if they're forcing something through, if they're in anxiety or anything like that. So the first thing that I want us to do is to do a little bit of a visualization. I'll guide you through this, because before we go into any kind of practice, before we decide that we're going to take a course, or we're going to do any kind of lessons or anything like that, we need to make a decision that we're the kind of person that would do that. And the kind of person that would stick with anything is the kind of person that believes that it's useful to them. So you have to come from that place. You have to come from that authentic place, as opposed to going into it going, oh, I don't really like my voice. Is this going to help me? I'm not sure. Then you're going to give up, because sometimes certain things are going to take a lot longer to just kind of get in and lock in with you. But if you start from the place of, this is the beginning of the journey of me being there already, then you're going to go into it and you're going to accept that sometimes things take a bit longer, but you're on the journey of doing it anyway. You're like, I am a positive and confident speaker, just working on my voice, as opposed to, I'm someone who doesn't like my voice, I'm trying to figure it out. They're just two different things, and you may be doing the same, but you're coming at it from a completely different place. So if everyone just wants to take a moment, let's just kind of close our eyes and feel. What I want you to do is just think about what it is that you would like to do with your voice in a perfect scenario. Like, who would you be? Who would you be speaking to? Where would you be standing or sitting, or what space are you in? And just bring to mind what that perfect situation looks like, and think, who's with you? What are you wearing? What kind of day is it? And know that you've gone into a place where people are waiting for you to deliver your message. So they've not brought you there because you're, you know, dithering and nervous and confident. They've brought you there because they know that you can deliver what you said you can deliver. So what is your message? If you like, just think to yourself, what is the message? What's the unique point of view that only you can bring? And what does it feel like when you're speaking about that? Who's listening? Whose lives are being transformed? And what's your posture like? Are you walking? Are you sitting? Are you smiling? Are you moving your hands? Are you dancing around? What are you doing? It doesn't really matter what, there's no right or wrong. It's like, how does this work for you in the situation that you're using your voice? And as you're delivering your message, think about all the little times that you've spent preparing for that message. Think about the times that you've spent working on your voice and the exercises that you're happy to do because it brings you to that place. Because there's always part of you that is calling you. There's always that part of you that knows that there's more for you to open up to deliver the message, to find your resonance, to find your truth. And also now think of having delivered that message, having delivered that speech. Now people are coming up to you and they're congratulating you on the speech that you've given to them, on the message that you've given to them, and how you've moved them. And some people are transformed, some people are in awe, some people just can't believe that they're actually meeting you. How do you feel knowing that by embodying your voice and by standing up and delivering your message, or sitting down and delivering your message in whatever way, lives are changed? How do you feel about that? And feel into that more and realize how important it is that you speak, how important it is that you embody the confidence, because there are lives out there that are going to be transformed by you stepping into that. And if you can just think of 2 or 3 words and then when you're ready, open up and just write those words down. If anyone wants to share, do share. You don't have to, but it'd be interesting just to hear a word or 2. Ease. Love that. Thanks, Sandra. Great. Okay. So let's move on. So B is breath. And breath, I think we take our breath for granted. I mean, for the most part, we don't breathe properly. That's a given anyway. But your breath is so important in so many ways. For one, it's the support of your voice. It's maintaining your life as it is anyway. But also what you can do is you can use your breath to support your voice. You can also use it to calm your nerves and your anxiety as well. But what I wanted to say is when you feel excited, feeling excited is kind of very similar in your body to when you're feeling nervous and excitement as well, nervous and anxiety. So when you are breathing, what you can do is you can use your breath to kind of ride through those feelings. Because, you know, even a few weeks ago, I gave a public speech as well, and was like the first time I'd done like a public speaking event in that kind of environment. I was being assessed, so it was kind of heavy. And as I was sitting there and getting ready, despite knowing that I can do, you know, singing and podcasting, all this thing, this was like a new space, and I was feeling everything. Like the heart was going, everything was out, and I was just like, breathe, remember who the fuck you are, remember, you know, I had to like be going through all of those things as well. And even when I got up there, I kind of set off like a rocket, you know, and like came down on the other side, and everyone was like, you did that with no notes? I'm like, yeah. You know, sheer adrenaline just kind of got me from start to finish. But also I was like riding my own excitement. I was also riding my own nerves as well. I was going in between the two. I don't even remember that much about it, to be honest. It was just it happened, and then it was over, and it was like that was 6 minutes. Like didn't feel like anything like that. So you can use it to really ride through. So as you're breathing, you can still have all of that jittering going all around you. You can still be feeling like your heart racing. You can still be feeling panic. You can still be feeling the butterflies, but you still breathe in that. So it doesn't mean that any of that isn't happening. You keep your breath going despite everything else going around. And also, as you're riding your excitement, I call that's what it feels like. You're on a merry-go-round and you're still breathing and screaming, but you know, you're not flying off. Because when you get into that state of anxiety, you can start going into it as well, and then it's all lost. Your breath is here and everything's gone. But if you kind of bring yourself down into your body, despite having all of these extra feelings as well, you'll be able to keep your breath going despite everything else happening physically around you. And as you're breathing as well, breathing brings you into the present moment. It's like, where else can you be if you're just watching your breath, counting your breath? You can't be anywhere else but where your breath is in that moment as well. And I like to say it connects you to your presence also. You decide that I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm watching my breath, I'm feeling myself go up and down, I'm feeling myself go through all of this. So we're going to do a breath exercise, or a few breath exercises as well. So I'll take this off. So the first one that I want to do is, I know you're all sitting, but ideally if you can sit as straight as possible so that you can be grounded enough, so that your legs are at a right angle, your back is as straight as possible. Also, sometimes if you kind of just sit with your knees a little bit wider than straight, so you can allow, you know, your belly to just kind of be loose and a little bit of space there as well. And the first thing that we'll do is we'll just breathe deeply into our belly, because a lot of the time when someone says to you, take a deep breath, most people are going to go and think that this is a deep breath, and like that's not going anywhere at all. We want to breathe all the way down, like deep into, like, imagine bringing it down to the belly. Let's just keep it untechnical for now. So breathing all the way down into the belly, and then the breath starts from there. And as you're breathing more, you're almost like filling yourself up this way, instead of kind of holding it here and then letting it go. The idea is that you breathe deeply into the belly and hold it there and then let it out. So we'll do like a few variations of this as well. So the first one is to breathe in and breathe in down to the belly, and then hold it there for 4 beats, and then breathe out as well for 4 beats as well. So I'll count you through. So when you're ready, okay. So breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold 2, 3, 4. And I want you to exhale out your mouth for 4. Again, breathing in, and we're going to go all the way, breathing down to the belly, holding, and just breathing out through the mouth, just making a blowing sound for now. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale. We'll do another round. In, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4. And one thing that I like to do when I'm breathing, or when I'm having a moment where I'm feeling a little bit anxious, is to also think about where my toes are. It might sound like, why are you thinking about your toes? Like, I just put my feet in the ground and just think, where's my big toe? and I just will press my big toe down, just literally just so that it's there, so I know that it's touching the ground and I can feel it. So now when I'm breathing down, I'm also just aware that there's a little extra pressure with my big toes just pressing in lightly to the ground. So it's bringing me, grounding me, bringing me into the present, bringing me into my presence as well. So we'll do that again, but this time I'm going to extend it. So we're going to breathe in for 5, hold for 5, and then exhale for 5. And when we exhale for 5, we are going to just use that sound, just like a snake. 5, all right? And we'll do like a few rounds of that as well. We do 3 or 4 rounds of that, and then we'll expand. Okay, so breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. And again, breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. And one more time, breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then the last one in this section is now doing 6. Okay, so we're going to breathe in for 6. We're going to hold for 6. But then when we breathe out, I want you to whisper to count for 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and allow the breath to just guide you out as well. All right. So when you're ready, I'll guide you again. We do this 3 rounds. Breathe in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Reset and another round. Breathe in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. Last one. 1, 2. Breathe in. Sorry. Breathe in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. Okay. How are we feeling?
I feel good. I realized how much my toes go up when I'm with the breathing. Like it took a minute for me to remind myself over and over, like, keep your toes down. And then in me keeping my toes down, it actually made for greater space for me to be able to take a deeper breath. So like for the first 4, I realized I was getting to the 4 really, like the expansion, like my expansion really quick. And I was like, oh, I don't have anywhere else to breathe in. But
Yeah.
then when I allowed for my feet to like really, and then I realized my toes were all like up like this when I was doing it. So I was like really making sure that my toes were grounded. And then that actually opened up more space in order for me to like expand more, like deeper and it
Mm,
was really helpful. So
mm,
by the time we got to 6, I was like able to really kind of expand more than before. And also the letting go and the counting, I felt like was a balloon type of a situation with like letting the air out. It was less controlled and I was able to deflate a lot more and feel the difference from
mhm.
being expanded to the deflation. Deflation brought on just like such a like zen, like, you know,
Yeah.
that really like peaceful, like serene feeling.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Grounded, relaxed, Petra. Thank you as well. And the thing about that is, as wild as it may sound, the more that you can go into that, there's like no end, Phoenix Lighter. The more that you can go into that, you can do it for 20 seconds. You can take it to the point where you're breathing in so slowly and so steadily for 20 seconds, and then you're holding it, and you can sit with that, and you can almost imagine that sometimes when we think we hold the breath, we literally go like holding everything, as opposed to, like you're saying, like letting yourself like press in with your toes into the ground. But then also, if you imagine, you know, just visualize the breath kind of like going in and like oxygenating all the cells in your body, you know, and it's just really just freeing and opening itself up, and bringing you more space. And then when it comes to release the breath, then doing so in a very natural way, in a, like almost like a gear change, as opposed to like taking the valve, you know, and doing a balloon that just goes without any control. It's like if you kind of let it just kind of come out like, and you can feel, and you will also feel your own, the own power of your own internal organs, like your breathing apparatus, as you slowly decide when the breath is going to come out, as opposed to it, you know, I need to let it all go. And the longer that you can ride the breath and allow it to come out slowly, the more calm you feel. You know, I'm sure everyone just feels like really zenned out as well. And the good thing about breathing is that it just brings so much more oxygen into your body than you ever really allow. And that's one of the things as well, like breathing exercises and singing exercise. When I used to do them, you get addicted. So that's why you could sing for hours, because you're literally on your own high. You're breathing in, you're taking in that good ass prana, as they say, you know, you're high on just the energy of life around you. So you're breathing that in, you're holding that in, and then you're letting it go. And then when you can like infuse that with finding your own resonance, then you know you just want to listen to your voice forever, because you just feel comforted and healed by your own voice, and you realize how much power you have when your own voice is embodied within itself, and you just get comfort from being in your own space with your own voice, you know. So then it doesn't really matter what anyone else says, anyone else's criticism, because it's like, well, they're not me, you know. And it's when we have fears about something, that when we hear not the best feedback, that then we kind of get entangled in that. But when we know who we are, and we know what our voice sounds like, and we know what we're about, we're impervious to that, because it's someone's opinion, you know. Don't really matter. Like it's not true, it's not true, it's just what someone wants to say, and people have, you know, varying different reasons as to why they say things. And then the third on this as well, I hope it's sharing in the way that I want it to, is your cadence. And your cadence is your tone, your resonance. It's finding out what it is that you are reflecting out, and as you find your resonance, then you start to, you know, the glass, when people are using tuning forks or glass, then any matching resonance will actually let off. So if you then start to find the resonance of yourself, and then start to speak from a place of truth, then you'll find that you will start to bring into you those who hear you, and hear you not just on an audible level, but hear you on a level, on a feeling level, and maybe on a level that they can't even necessarily put their finger on, but they'll be drawn into your space. And this is about finding the tone that is yours. Your tone is completely different to mine, because even though we're using the same apparatus within ourselves, we are just built so differently. You know, the cavities within us are built so differently. And as I said, this is what people resonate with. This is what you are when you're connecting with your own vibration. And this is when you couple it with your breathing and your toning or your singing or whatever you're doing or speaking. That's when you just get on a roll and you get in that flow, because then you're high on your own breath. You're high on your own resonance. You're feeling that vibration that's kind of coming all the way through, and you're just infused and you're like comforted by it. It's the same way as if you've ever kind of leant on a purring cat, and the cat just has that, it's that same kind of feeling that you can get your voice to kind of find into that place as well. And once you've connected with it, and once you're able to really ground into that, and going back to my own experience of when my voice is up here, there's just there's nothing. It's there's nothing there. And when I bring it back down to where I speak from now, I feel completely secure. It's making me feel better, more so than whether it's making anyone else feel better or not. It's not even that. It's like I feel grounded, I feel rooted, and then I know that I can speak my truth from this place. There's no space for anything else to come in when I'm taking up the space of my own heart, basically, in this area as well. So the resonant exercise that we're going to do is we're going to be doing a sounding initially like a sound called ma, 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 ma. So if I go into it a little bit deeper, so if you just make that sound, what I want you to do is when you're making just feel how the humming, the almost makes your lips tingle. It might almost get to the point where it tickles them. And I want you to just do it in a gentle way, not in a way that you would be forcing it, because we can kind of go and it's like, no, that's not what we want. We just want a gentle, like like if someone said, are you all right? You're like, yeah, like an easy that kind of gentle and just play around with that and feel what your voice feels like when it's doing that sound. And then what I want you to do is now take that and just kind of sink it down to the lowest, easiest tone for you. So what I mean by that is wherever it goes to its lowest. So don't like try and growl it or anything like that. Like I'm trusting that you're doing it, because I can't hear you, and I'm not going to force you to come on audio with that as well, but just bring yourself to that and maybe even put your hand just above, just kind of here, if you can see me, and feel when you go where you can feel that that and and just play around with it and just get used to feeling your voice at that point now as well. And when you think you've got it, what we're going to do is bring the breath exercise that we did to that and bring that together and see now how it feels to feel your voice from this space that may be a new space for you. So keeping your hand there, you're going to breathe in. We'll start with 5, kind of a midpoint as well. So breathing in for 5, holding for 5, and then when we come out and count. We want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just from that place where we've been doing the ma, ma, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So kind of find where that is for you, and then we'll do it at a pace so that you get to really feel what that feels like. So I'll guide you through that. So get relaxed. So we'll breathe in for 5. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. And speak out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, breathing in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And as speaking out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On me. Breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and let's just do a couple now with 6 from the same place as well. So breathing in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And speaking out, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And one more. Breathe in for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold for 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And speaking out on 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. How's everyone feeling? Anybody got anything to tell me about how that was for them? Or did you feel something different in your voice? Did it open up a new space for you? Let me know. Pleasure. That was pleasurable. Pleasure was my key word of how it felt for me. Thank you. And do you feel like a new relationship? Did it open like a different part of your voice, or do you speak from that part before? Did it feel natural or not, or new? Tell me.
It didn't feel new, but it, especially the last round of going up to 6, like I could, before it kept alternating between the heart and the belly center. And then that last round of 6, it felt like the visual that I got and how it felt inside was sort of like a tornado that was connected through this whole part. So there was like an opening here in the power center is what I experienced. But it was just pleasurable. Like it felt sensual. It felt, and it still does. Like it it's good. Like it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a
Thank
feeling
you.
that I like. It's a feeling that I really like. That's why I kind of speak from this part, because it's just like, oh, I could just like this way. That's why I put. That's why my voice like feels better now from this point. Like I said before, when it was here, it's just, what's this? It's not doing anything. No one cares, But when I bring it down here, I feel good, and I can go on and just kind of, bask in my own pleasure of feeling how my voice kind of opens up this way. And to be honest, when I first found that part as well, after weeks of talky singing and paying a lot of money to this singing teacher as well, I was quite annoyed initially, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to stick with it because I want something out of it, but this is taking too long, costing me too much to do it one a week after. But soon as I felt it move to that place, it was a real awakening for me. And to be honest, it was actually really quite emotional, because it kind of broke away a few things that I'd been holding or not, or avoiding in a way, really, like my own, cliche as it may sound, but my own power that I just was avoiding, because I didn't want to rock the boat. I wanted to keep the peace. I wanted everyone to like Carol, but what did that do? It made that everyone spoke for Carol. Carol didn't speak for herself, and she was getting, and it was this constant cycle of not being where I am. And once I'd felt that, I was like, oh, okay, what am I going to do with all of this? And then just getting used to feeling that, and it's that internal purr, that internal warmth of my own voice, and then having that grounding, then it's still there. Even when I'm singing and I go high, it's still connected. It doesn't lose itself as well. There's groundedness from it. And also it means that I don't really suffer from vocal injury. I don't lose my voice or anything like that. Whereas, sometimes when people are speaking from here, it's all on the vocal cords, and it's just like, you're going to get problems, Whereas if your voice comes down here and you're allowing it to come out, then there's less stress on this, and you can listen and you can hear people. You can like, oh, that's going to hurt you. You can really feel it. I can feel it. Chelsea, voice was deeper and lower than I originally thought. I found comfort in the lower tone. Lower, I could feel it in my belly. Yeah. And if you think of like I said, speaking and singing, they're literally the same. They're the same thing, because when you're listening to enticing and enchanting and speakers, they have a melody to their voice themselves. I'm gonna let John in. They have a melody to the way that they carry their voice, which is why everyone gets moved around with it. All the famous speakers that have been that we talk about year after year, decade after decade, there is a melody to these songs, to these speakers. They have a cadence. They're embodying their voice somehow, so that it's not just about them speaking. Something about their voice is melodic in a way that pulls us in. Something about their voice is embodied. It's not just them shouting and screaming. You know what it sounds like when someone shouts? It hurts, Whereas if someone is yelling, if you imagine if someone is kind of really talking loudly to you and bellowing, but it's supported, it's just, you get blown away by it. And the volume may be like a heavy volume, but it feels different, as opposed to someone like screeching at you, that the fingers on a chalkboard kind of feeling, that it's like, oh my gosh, as opposed to that ooh, that comes through the whole body. So the more that you're able to kind of get your body involved and connected to your own resonance, there's so much power there that pulls people in without you having really to try so hard. And it seems like you're trying hard, but not as much as it would appear to be. You don't have to force yourself through. It kind of cuts in its own way, because you've got your own kind of position within the spectrum of sound, as it were. Okay, so anybody else have any question? I have a bit probably because I sound different in English and different when I speak, which is quite hard compared to English. Yeah, what's interesting, Petra, as well, because I do some teaching of foreign students, and in particular when, well, any of my students, either where they come from, like Turkey, I have a lot of students from Turkey, and then also students from Asia, like China, Korea, Japan. And it's interesting how they have a real different take on it because of the language and the phonetics that their language is based around. Kind of opens up different muscular avenues for them, so that there are tones, there are vowel shapes, there are consonant shapes, there are ways that their mouth just doesn't move because their language doesn't demand it. So that when it comes to, like, you know, something that maybe like involve them rolling their r's or saying a th sound, or f sound, or r sound, they're just not able to do that, not because they can't, just because they haven't. And we have in English, when we're speaking English, all of those sounds available to us, so we're constantly moving those muscles and freeing those muscles up. So when you come and you're speaking a second language, you're trying to speak a second language through the phonetics and through your body, with the looseness that your native tongue has given you. I could have come up with a more elegant word than that, but I couldn't think of one. But you know what I mean? It's almost like, you know, if you imagine like a bodybuilder, a guy that's like jacked up on steroids, you know, he looks massive, he looks great. But then try and get this guy to do like a flow in yoga. It doesn't happen because he's got all his muscles are all set in a certain way. And it's not to say that he's not fit, but he just doesn't have the grace because he's like overworked different muscles. And speaking different languages and languages in a second tongue are kind of the same thing. Like, it's an extreme example, but it is that you've worked so many different muscles to kind of maintain one physique, as it were, that when you go and move into, or try and move in a different way, then you're not really open to that because you haven't opened up the space. But we all have the same physicality, and you know, if it's available to us to move all of our body, then we can train those things. It's just sometimes it just takes, you know, a lot of time to kind of get out of it, and it can be frustrating because it takes a long time to undo where your mind will naturally go if you kind of see like an A or a TH or an S, or, you know, we've got this automatic thing that we go to when we see language things. Yeah, the tone of voice changes when I speak different languages. Yeah. Like I said, with the students that I teach, I see how they struggle with that, because it is that they're trying to speak a new language, get the nuance of speaking and reading English, and sometimes it can sound quite hard, or they can sound quite angry, and it's just the way that their language demands, or the way that their language is, and then we hear different things and we put emphasis on different parts as well. So anybody have any other questions or anything else for me? Is there anything else you would like to know? Any sharings you want to take me? Any questions that you have about your voice? It's all so quiet.
I really love that exercise with the and I found that we'd already, like, I feel like primed with the breathing, and then from there, you know, cascading down into like a lower tone. I was really surprised at how low, just in my natural, that I, you know, you hear yourself in a different way, but like how comfortable I felt at the lower tone.
Yeah.
And how soothing that was, almost as you said, like a cat purr. Like, I found my purr. That was really nice. And also,
Oh, you muted yourself, Chelsea.
also what that did, sorry,
Oh,
what that did with my lips too, and just the enjoyment of the feeling of that with feeling that, and where you're, because I do tend to, like, I've realized, especially lately, I've been getting some jaw pain, and I'm like, where's that coming from? Oh, it's coming from the fact that I'm like, you know, grinding my teeth and clenching my jaw a lot. So to create that sound, you know,
yeah.
it's more of a relaxing of the jaw and like where your tongue is resting. And so to also allow that with the it was wonderful.
And things that you can do, like simple exercises, if you find that you're like clenching a lot, sometimes when you catch yourself, just kind of do like a bit of chewing, you know, literally, and I do this kind of like, you know, like, and getting everything like loose, like, you know, I'm like putting myself completely out there. But another one that you can do that's really good as well to loosen up is to loosen up the tongue, and to just kind of push the tongue out and just let, you know, and not to do it too much, because these muscles that we have here, they are, you know, they're delicate, you know, so we don't want to kind of go hammering at them so much. But you can just, like, by chewing or moving your mouth around, or just doing that, you know, just using your tongue to go around your gums, inside your gums, outside your gums, you just start to get more flexibility in your tongue. And sometimes we hold a lot of stiffness in the back of our tongue, in the base of our tongue as well, just for not using it. Most people they don't breathe properly, they don't really use their mouth in a way that would open them up to that as well. So so great. Okay, anybody else? Petra, how are you doing? Do you have anything else to share? And any of the new joiners as well. I didn't hear anything from you. John, Simona, anybody else to share anything? All quiet. Hey,
Yeah.
you, love. How are you doing?
Yes. So with the humming, this when I was going, I can't go down, because when I go down with my voice, it's just bringing my accent even more. It's like sounds like even more harder than when I speak. It's like more like when you go Russian, like very, very hard English, and most of it, like I already lose some of my accent, because when I come from, we speak very hard, and is so when I speak, that is funny. When I go to Slovakia, I speak Slovakian with English accent, and here I speak English with Slovakian accent. So, you know, so people, they
Middle of
don't know
nowhere.
where I am from. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, but I will have to probably find different way, because if I go low, it's just bringing my native language, you know, the hardness, what I lost already, some of it here. So
there may be a softness. I mean, obviously it's
Mm.
like, I didn't hear what you were doing, but there's always like a softness with it, because you can make a very hard low sound, or it can be the and they're both in the same place, right? And a lot of times that comes from the shape that you're making at the back of the mouth when you're doing it. So it can be that the low sound is quite like this, whereas if you make you know, just soften it off
yeah.
a little bit, and it may feel like you're kind of over exaggerating it in your, like, oh, I'm doing this thing, it's going to sound affected. But what it does is actually just gently kind of rounds off the sound. So it's just like when you're speaking in your native language, there'll be a shape that you make within the tone. Obviously, like I said, I don't hear it. I didn't hear what you were doing, so I can't tell you where you are. But there's always a way of kind of just softening the edge off that. So
Okay.
that even when you're, you know, if you're making a sound that sounds like and you're like, oh my God, that sounds a bit hard. But then you can say you know, that, like, you can just tweak it ever so slightly from a to like a like a kind of like a like changing the vowels ever so slightly will just give it like a little bit of roundedness, that you're saying the same thing. And singers do it all the time. Like when they're going into high notes or low notes, they'll actually change the vowel so that you hear, like, the brain hears one thing, but they're saying something completely different. And it's because they're kind of twisting the vowel shape within their mouth to get that sound out, so that it doesn't sound hard. Or sometimes they'll do it purposely to kind of make it sound like, make the affectation part of the expression, you know. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it. there's a lot, much of it is about a trick. You're tricking the ear because the brain makes an assumption based on what it thinks you're going to say. You know, we kind of jump ahead of what it is that we're actually hearing to do that anyway. So, okay. So what I also wanted to share with you, oh, thank you, Petra. Okay. Is I created a course earlier this year as well. I was inspired to create a course, and this course is called Your Awakened Voice. And what this is, it's 28 audio lessons, and it's got a downloadable ebook and it's worksheets, and it's all about you working at your own pace. So it's totally audio, so you can do it in the comfort of your own home, or you can take it and do it in a park and make all your and and all of those sounds as well, away from your neighbors like banging on the walls as well. And when I used to do all of my vocalizing, I was always like, who's listening? Oh my God, you know, what are they thinking? Because some of the sounds, you know, they don't necessarily sound beautiful, but they create something. They create a momentum within you. So it's called Your Awakened Voice. And just to give you an idea of what's involved in the course is there's an introduction, and then there's ending your story visualization. So when it comes to the things that we have around our voice, it's a story that we keep telling ourselves, and we keep perpetuating this story. But the ending your story visualization is actually opening you up to seeing and feeling a little bit like what we did earlier, but like on a more deeper and longer level, to really feel into that, so that you can stop that story at that point in time before you go forward. Because like I said, it's a lot of the time we buy courses, we sign up for things, and then we never really follow through with it. And the reason we don't follow through is because we haven't had the need or opened up the deep why within us. So that's why we don't go along with it, because there's no necessity. We don't feel that it's going to benefit us in any way, because we don't feel worthy of it, or we don't think that we can follow through. Whereas if you get to that visualization of ending your story and really finding out who you are and why your voice is important, then going through all the exercises and really working to open up your voice is like, of course I've got to do this, because this is necessary for me to move forward. So included in that as well is a freeing your instrument module, where this is just about, a lot of the time we're just thinking our voice is here, but it's in your entire body. Like I said, we did the bit with our toes, but this is just getting you to move your body in all different ways as well, freeing your body, dancing, swaying, whatever it is for you. Then there's a big section on breathing as well. So it will take you through many different breathing exercises, so that a little bit of what we did now, but also building up on that as well, expanding how long we breathe for and taking you through that breathing module. Then there's a throat chakra release, because a lot of the time when we're not speaking up, we do have a block at our throat chakra. And this throat chakra release meditation is actually going to use vocal toning to open up that area for you. And then you're really going to burst through and be ready, sparkling in that energy to move forward and keep building and working on your voice. Then building resonance. So we did a little bit there as well. And this also is not only going to talk about your resonance in your chest area, it's also going to bring you to the resonance in your mouth area, and then also the resonance when you're in the higher area, so that you're able to have and find the resonance in the top of your voice without losing the connection. And it's doing exercises that kind of bring you into each different space, but then also working the resonance through all of this. And all of these as well are speaking exercises. There's a bit of toning, but they're not based on scales to a great extent, anything like that as well. So they're built on working on the voice for a speaker. After that as well is healing with your name. And this is super powerful. And it's something that was brought to my attention years ago. And I never forgot it the first time that I did it, because as we were doing the exercise where we were humming, then if you think about when somebody calls your name, you know, like acknowledges your name, how you feel about that. When we were young and somebody came and soothed us and said your name, like, Carol, you what, you know, and they said your name, you could really, it calms you all the way down. Someone's acknowledging you. But then imagine the power of you healing yourself with your own name. And that's when you really start to connect with the power of your own voice to, you know, just sit and talk to yourself all the time, but also then know what it's like and really feel how much influence you can have in terms of connecting to other people, and recognizing them by their own name. But first you have to be able to do it for yourself. And then after that is speaking in resonance. So as we did a little bit from the building resonance, is then opening up and then speaking from the different parts that we've found within ourselves. What is it like to speak in a connected way in the top of our voice, or in the middle of our voice, or in the lower part of our voice, and be able to move through all of those different areas and play around with it as well, because there are so many different ways to say one thing. You know, you can just say a simple sentence, but you can move between saying it up here, saying it here, or saying it here, and all of those things. And you can then decide how you want to communicate, but you're still always doing it from a grounded place. And then silence. And silence, I think, is probably the most underrated part of speaking and singing. Silence is what gives you the contrast. And it's when you can take a pause. And for some people, that pause is really uncomfortable, because what fills that pause? And if you can stand and pause and allow whatever needs to come through, maybe it's something that needs to coming through from you, or maybe it's the people that you're communicating with and you want to give them time to feel into themselves, but also you want to transmit something to them. So even when you're standing or you're giving a moment of pause or silence, you want to still be holding some sort of energy, some sort of space. You don't want to lose yourself in the mind of like, oh my God, like how long I'm like, you know, you want to still be able to be in the silence. So that's what the silence is all about. And then finally, there's a daily practice, because as much as we'd like to do one and done, it's not like that at all. It always takes consistent practice to actually build on that. So what the daily practice is a compilation of all of those exercises that you can use, and it's about 10-15 minutes long, that you can then use every day to build on all of these things. And even with the course as well, I always suggest that you go through each part and just take a few days on each one as well. Don't think about charging through it. Don't think that it needs to be done all at once. Take some time to really go through each part, go over it and over it and over it until you feel that you've got it. But this daily practice is something then that you can use every morning while you're in the shower to kind of do your daily practice. Or if you have an event where you're speaking, to use it as a warm-up as well, to kind of just remind yourself of all of the areas that you are. And then the conclusion is me just telling you how to look after your voice. You know, we always think about our voice and don't really think of the physicality of how we look after our voice. Like, keep your throat covered. Like, for some reason the temperature has just sunk into the pits in the UK right now, and I was out with the fluffy, all the things, and even then I wasn't warm enough, you know. But it's about hydrating yourself. It's about the way that you speak and the way that you use your voice on a daily basis, and also just keeping your throat warm and covered and care for it, because it is part of your instrument and it's really important to spread your message to the world. So your Awakened Voice course, its usual price is £239, which is $303 the last time I looked. And what I am offering for the next 48 hours for any of the participants of this workshop is to save £40 or $50 of the price, which will bring it down to £199 or $252. But also, as an added bonus, if you enroll within the next 24 hours, I will also include with that a one-to-one 60-minute session with me. And you can use that 60-minute session however you want as well. So it can be working on your voice, your creativity, your spirituality, or melding the two as well. Like anything that you want to do that will help you kind of move forward in what it is that you want to do. The next step in your own expression is what I want to include in that course as well. So that is basically what I'm offering for you as well. Like it's a labor of love, me talking about the voice, and I really so excited by seeing so many people speaking up. I think the last 2 or 3 years, especially, where the world has really just kind of like shaken, has really awoken people to so many areas where they've kept quiet and they've kept numb about certain things. And now seeing so many things happen in the world, it's like, how much longer can we stay silent about this and pretend that it doesn't matter? Do we want to go to our graves having held on to everything because we wanted to keep the peace? I mean, you know, peace is the last thing that's happening in the world right now, but we need more people to speak up in a way that's authentic to them. You know, like your message may not be on the front lines talking about this, but you speaking in truth will then inspire people around you to speak in truth. And for me, the vision is everyone just going, hang on a minute, I don't like what's happening. Let me say what's going on, what I see, and not having any fear about that. Of course, there are going to be people that come at you that are going to tell you that, you know, you shouldn't be saying this, or you need to be quiet, or they're going to cancel you. And, you know, especially on the World Wide Web, my God, you know, it's the Wild West of this century. It is literally like cowboy land. But for those who can stand up, and for those who can embody what it is, their own unique voice, it is the opportunity for us to really shift what we're seeing and what is happening in the world today. So that's what I would like to share with you today. Thank you for being here and sharing as well.